While the details of the so-called torture report has sparked a fierce debate over what should have been done in the days after 9/11, with asking whether the CIA's actions were justified or if they went too far, it is important not to forget that this fight is deeply personal for one group of people, those who lost loved ones in the attacks on 9/11. I want to talk about that report with Terry Strada. Her husband, Tom, was killed in the September 11th attacks on the World Trade Center. Welcome back, Terry. I'm glad you're here.
Thank you for having me, Carol.
What do you make of this torture report?
Well, I have to tell you, Carol, what really upsets me about it is that our government is focused on what happened after 9/11 when we should be focused more on what happened before 9/11. There is a report that has been classified for 12 years, 28 pages from a joint inquiry into the 9/11 attacks that President Bush classified, and we have been fighting for 12 years to get that declassified because it talks about who funded 9/11, who was behind 9/11. Why am I living without a husband? Why is my children living without a father? We don't address that. We want to talk about what techniques we've used. I'm sorry, until we go back and find out or let the American people know who was behind 9/11, I don't think we're ever going to be safe. I don't think we're ever going to win our war.
Why don't they want to know that information, do you suppose?
Well, they do know the information. You know, I'd like to ask Senator Feinstein, why don't you want to release that information to us? We're not alone on this. Senator Bob Graham, who was the Senate Intelligence Committee chairman at the time, is with us fighting to get these pages declassified. He actually wrote a portion of the pages. I work with him. I was on the phone with him on Monday. We hear that this is coming out. This isn't what we talk about. We talk about what we need our government to do for us now. There's also a piece of legislation that's sitting in the Senate today that could be brought up for a vote. I would like reporters to go down there and ask Congress, what's holding this bill up? Why can't we get a bill called the Justice Against Sponsors of Terrorism Act out there and passed so we can go after the people who caused 9/11 so we don't have to deal with this ever again.
So when you hear this continuing debate about torture in the country now, how does that make you feel?
It upsets me because, again, we don't go to the real issues. What torture for me, what torture was, torture is watching what happened on 9/11, watching people jump out the buildings, you know, to save themselves, or to, you know, to die, as opposed to being burned to death or smoke. I mean, the carpet was burning beneath their feet. I had to listen to my husband on the phone when he called me that morning. Torture is telling your children that their father was killed by terrorists on American soil and that our government isn't standing by our side to help us go after the people that caused it. So I live in a tortured environment. And I don't think pouring water up their nose or, like, you know, walk around naked
doesn't matter to you.
Doesn't matter to me.
Do you think we should even be having this debate when it comes to terrorists like these?
No, I don't. I don't. I don't think we should. I don't think it should be what our government should be focusing on, issuing a 500-page report when there's so many other things that are much more important.
How do you keep up the energy to continue the fight? That's what I've always wondered whenever I talk to you.
Because I loved my husband dearly. He was a great person, and so were all of his friends. You know, we lost everybody, his entire desk. Carol, I don't know if you can imagine being home and this place evaporating in one day, and everybody you know and love is gone. You would stand up and fight, too, for the rest of your life until you get the truth out there. My daughter's here. I fight for her. I fight for my kids. Justin was 4 days old. He never got to know his dad. His dad didn't get to know him. Tommy went through hell, my 7-year-old. You know, when your kids stop eating and stop drinking and stop sleeping because they can't deal with what happened, you stand up and fight.
Well, good for you. Terry Strada, thanks for coming in again. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.